Shabbat shalom to everyone. Carmen, you're doing okay, my friend.
I'm trying.
You're doing better than trying. Not far from Cincinnati, in Petersburg, Kentucky. Has anyone ever been there? I doubt it. Is the Creation Museum. Now, according to its website, and I quote, "The state-of-art 70,000 square foot museum brings the pages of the Bible to life, casting its characters and animals in dynamic form and placing them in familiar settings. Adam and Eve live in the Garden of Eden. Children play and dinosaurs roam near Eden's rivers. The serpent coils cunningly in the tree of knowledge of good and evil." I'm still reading. "Majestic murals, great masterpieces brimming with pulsating colors and details provide a backdrop for many of the settings." And on their blog, they have such entries as Big Bang, exploding the myth, and is evolution possible? The goal of the museum is to show that the story of creation through Adam and Eve, Cain and Abel, Noah's Ark, all these things should be taken literally. Dinosaurs lived during the time of Noah's Ark. That's their theory. The world is only 6,000 years old, according to them. Now, okay, so you go to this, that's fine, it's okay, but this is where it got a little bit scary for me as I researched a little bit. I haven't been there, but 45 miles away there is the replica of the life-size replica of Noah's Ark. So Kentucky Cincinnati area, Kentucky, things are happening there. But there is part of this Creation Museum, they have a full-year high school lab for the biblical worldview. So it's a science curriculum that reinforces biblical fundamentalism. Okay? The goal of the museum is to reinforce the biblical literalism of evangelical Christianity. Now, some theologies teach that the scriptures must be read literally. We even have such believers in the Jewish community. They claim that if the Torah says it, it has to be understood at its most simple, literal level. The world was created in 6 days. Adam and Eve lived in the garden. End of discussion. Now, it's interesting, 24%. Just think about it. 24% of Americans say that the Bible should be read literally. That's a quarter of Americans. And I would venture to say that many people who are not per se literalist are confused about how you read the Bible. They can't fully conceptualize how the book of Genesis and science relate to each other. That's why I'm here. That's my job. I confront Jews like this all the time. And not infrequently, I will be speaking to a private school. They always call the rabbi in for something at a private school. And I'm there to represent my view of Judaism. And I tell them the following. I tell them I believe in the story of creation as stated in chapter 1 and 2 of the book of Genesis, that it is true. And I also believe that scientific theory of evolution and the Big Bang are true. Initially, they think I'm double talking, but I explain to them there are different truths in this world. There are scientific truths and there are religious truths, and they live in harmony with each other. They complement each other. This idea that they're in conflict is completely ridiculous. Science helps us to understand how the world came into being. That's what astronomy and theoretical physics and evolutionary biology and geology, that's what they are for. They are tools to understand this complex world that we live in. The Big Bang and DNA are scientific myths. I mean, myths being ways of understanding things that are conceived to explain how the world is and how life exists. Their goal is to articulate the how. What are the rules that govern the universe? That's why the James Webb Telescope helps us understand this incredible world. Have you seen any of the pictures from they're extraordinary. They're extraordinary. They're stunning. They're humbling. And really intelligent people, far more intelligent than I am, are able to look at those pictures and to truly come to a greater understanding of how the universe works. And as time goes on, people are going to come out with greater understanding of creation and of the universe. That's science, and that's beautiful, and that's what we should do with our brains. But all the pictures in the world cannot explain the why. Astronomers can't tell us why our world was created, or the meaning of creation, or the role of human beings have in creation. That's the role of religion. Biblical texts and science complement each other. They answer different questions. They use different methods and language. A thoughtful person doesn't need to choose. It's not either or, it's rather both and. They're complementary, they work together. I mean, you know how many times I've said this? You know, when I started saying this when my hair, I always talk about my hair. When I started my rabbinical career teaching, and I don't know I'm talking to you. Okay, Nathan isn't here, so I don't want to scare Carmen, so I'm going to talk to you. Okay, you're the designated something tonight. Okay, so you're here. No, but when I started teaching, I remember I was in rabbinical school. I had dark yellow, brownish, reddish hair. And I'd have the same discussion. They'd come in and say, oh, Rabbi, I don't believe in the Bible. Don't you believe in the Big Bang? And I say, I never heard of the Big Bang. What's that? I mean, it's ridiculous. Okay, all of that being said, so what does the Bible tell us about how our world is? What does this story, which unfolds beginning in 6 days, from the creation of light itself into counterbalance with a primordial darkness, to a differentiated world of land and water, to the creation of celestial objects, ultimately to the development of plants and animal life reaching its pinnacle in the creation of human beings, and then the story of Adam and Eve and all these things. What are these texts here to teach us that you won't get in a science book? I mean, I think that's a legitimate question. A teacher of mine, he really scared me, who was a great congregational rabbi and a serious biblical scholar in the 20th century, named Rabbi Robert Gordis. He suggested in one of his essays 6 things that we learn from the creation story. Okay? I want to share them with you because they're brilliant, but as I say them, I still remember him standing in front of the class and me being incredibly scared. So affirmation number 1, the world has a plan and a purpose. The world isn't an accident. There is a divine intelligence which undergirds creation that we all call God. Supreme Court Justice Oliver Wendell Holmes used a military metaphor. We are soldiers in a great campaign, even if we are not privy to the battle plan. Is that a good quote? I got to read that again. It's so good. When it's good, you have to repeat it. We are soldiers in a great campaign, even if we are not privy to the battle plan. We are here for a reason if we're not told what it is. Life is a journey of discovery. Affirmation number 2, all life is wholly and integral to the divine order of creation. The whole process of creation produces life. That life has a unity to it, from its simplest form to the creation of human beings. And what it says is that unity is something extremely important, and the Torah is very clear about this. One of the things that is derived from that is that we are forbidden to inflict unnecessary pain upon any creature. And that is the argument that's found in the beginning of the Torah about avoiding eating animals at all. Eventually, in the story of Noah, people are allowed to eat animals, but ideally, life was so sacred that the tradition says no pain should be given to any animal. Number 3, men and women are equal in God's plan. The Torah says, and God created man in his image. In the image of God, he created him. Male and female, he created them. Men and women have complementary roles in this world. Clearly, that's the story of Adam and Eve. Affirms that both of them have agency and power, and the actions of each of them have equal consequence. Gender equality is contrary to the founding affirmations of the Torah. This idea that the Torah is against women is a total misreading. I'm here to fight that battle too. Affirmation number 4, every human being is fashioned in the image of God. Human beings are endowed with a spark of divinity, and therefore every human being is of infinite value and infinite worth. Each of us has this sacred spark in us. That's why all human beings have an equality, and that cannot be taken away from them. Every human being has an infinite right. No one has more rights than anyone else. We all have equal rights, and all of our lives are of equal value. That's a biblical statement of creation. Number 5, human beings have a special responsibility in this world. Human beings were put into this world, but we're called upon to be divine caretakers. Human beings have an obligation to preserve life. Chopping down the Amazon is sinful. Affirmation number 6, the world is good. God saw everything that God made, and behold, it was very good. Of course, there are imperfections in the world. Creation is not perfect, and human beings are called upon to fix this world. And even though our power is limited, we're not allowed to give up. Life is sacred and worth living. Our responsibility is to guard against the evils of cruelty, greed, ignorance, and waste. Those are the 6 affirmations that come out of Genesis, and you're not going to find them through a telescope. You find them through how we understand the story of creation. And the reality is, those affirmations that I just made are the way that we read the entire Jewish tradition. You cannot understand, for example, what Judaism is about if you don't recognize that all human beings are created in the image of God. You can't understand about our human gender unless you understand that gender equality is throughout the Torah. We can't understand how we should approach life unless we're told, something, life does have a lot of darkness in it, but ultimately the world is good. These are the affirmations that make us human and are to guide us as we go through life. Science is great, but we need more. No laboratory can generate these ideas. No telescope can discern them. A truly religious person does not read the Torah literally, but he or she appreciates its poetry, its artistry, its mystery, its message. Now, people falsely claim that Albert Einstein was an atheist. Yet here is what he wrote to a friend. He wrote, and I quote, "In view of such harmony in the cosmos, which I, with my limited human mind, am able to recognize, there are yet people who say there is no God. But what really makes me angry is they quote me for the support of such views." Now, it's interesting, Einstein regretted not having spent enough time studying sacred texts of Judaism and mastering Hebrew. And they wanted him to be the first they wanted him to be the first president of the state of Israel, and then they wanted him to be head of the Hebrew University, and he decided to do neither. And I remember reading about that where he was embarrassed because he wasn't able to go up and address the community in Hebrew. It's very interesting. So this is my final thought. I pray that every Jewish child grows up to be an astrophysicist. Now, enough dentists, doctors, and lawyers. That would be fantastic. It would be the Jewish mother's dream of the 21st century. Astrophysicists everywhere. But, there's a but here. But let us make sure that every year that same child goes to synagogue and hears the words, Bereshit bara Elohim et hashamayim v'et haaretz, when God began to create the heaven and the earth. Einstein in the book of Genesis make very good bedfellows. Shabbat shalom.